Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has given his public backing to Ruben Amorim.
Oh, we've got to win things now. The perception is you've got to be judged now. Well, he doesn't.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
By who? You?
No.
Utter drivel.
Are media people not grown up?
You have no idea what it takes to run a business. I also think he's become a useful idiot for the Glazers at times. And the one thing that Jim Ratcliffe needs to realise is no one's standing still waiting for Man United to get better. Because the language of Man United is we're the biggest football club in the world and we win. That's rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, right? He's got to fix the bloody football team.
Manchester United co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe has given his public backing to Ruben Amorim. Dominic O'Connell on the Times and Sunday Times new podcast, The Business, was talking to Sir Jim, Simon. Some interesting things to come out of this, and very keen to get your take on Sir Jim's take. Dominic was in touch with me last night. Well done, Dominic, in getting this chat, and well done with some of the lines that have come out in it. Now, on there, Sir Jim was asked about the future of Ruben Amorim.
We have to be patient, and we have a long-term plan. It isn't a light switch, and you can't run a club like Manchester United on knee-jerk reactions to some journalist who goes off on one, every week. Sorry.
So Amorim gets at least the rest of the season then.
Amorim, he's a good guy. Yeah,
That's not the same thing. He's a good guy, it's not the rest of the season.
I would say Ruben, he needs to demonstrate that he's a great coach over 3 years.
So you give him 3 years?
Yeah, that's where I would be.
Yeah.
3 years, because football's not overnight.
No, and as you say, the Alex Ferguson example is exactly that, isn't it?
And you look at Arteta at Arsenal. He had a miserable time for the first couple of years, Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? Asked if Amorim would get until the end of the season, Ratcliffe replied, yeah, Amorim is a good guy, and Dominic picked up on that. When you look at it, Amorim has won 10 of 34 games since taking charge in November. He's failed to win back-to-back league games yet. I'm not too sure that because a journalist sounds off that Sir Jim should or shouldn't be influenced by that. I didn't quite understand what he said about that. But next up after this international break, Simon, it's Liverpool away. Then they host Brighton, followed by trips to Forest and Spurs. So Amorim has a lot to do, does he not?
Yeah, but what Jim was talking about a journalist was he's not going to be influenced by journalists who don't know what they're talking about.
Well, you would expect him to be.
People
I'm not quite sure why he highlights that if he's not going to be.
Well, they are, because he's showing the fact that he's not going to be. The fact is that the media and the fans voice their dissatisfaction, and as a result of it, momentum builds behind creating outcomes. That's precisely what happens. So what he's addressing is the issue that he will not be listening to background noise.
Yeah, well, good for him.
Right,
but I'm quite sure it's not gone unnoticed that Amorim has won 10 of 34 games, that they were finalists in Europa League in what was a dreadful final, and Tottenham won it. And he has laboured at Manchester United, yet he's saying he's a good guy. No, let's give him 3 years.
Because he's not interested in other people's opinion.
No, but regardless of that, we're interested in his opinion. And if this is his opinion, what on earth is your take on it? Because I know what my take is on it. What if they have another season that they end mid-table mediocrity,
but again,
and he's stuck with them for another one?
But he's not bothered about the opinions of people that don't know what it takes to run a football club. And his belief is that it will take 3 years.
And he does.
Well, he thinks he does.
Do you think he does?
I think he knows how to run businesses, and I think the approach...
Do you think he knows how to run Manchester United?
Well, it's a very difficult answer to give because I don't know him personally, and I also don't know the depth of Man United's problems. I also think that ultimately people are brought in to make things better. But as I often say in this show and rail against it, is this is not a race. Everyone seems to think because there's a necessity to be first rather than be accurate, it's important to condemn people instantaneously. It goes from feast to famine overnight. You don't micromanage anything. Businesses sometimes take a long time to either build or to change. Now, I'm not impressed with Ruben Amorim, but that doesn't mean that Ruben Amorim isn't going to fix the problems of Man United if he's given the time to do it. There's nothing I've seen from him so far that indicates that he's going to. But in the same way that I was defending the idea that people should be addressing the issues around Russell Martin as to the reasons why they employed him, if Manchester United and their owners, who are far closer to Ruben Amorim and far closer to what they perceive the problems to be, feel that the reasons why they employed him are still consistent with the way that they're going, then they have no business talking about Ruben Amorim being fired, because the traditional thinking is, oh, we've got to win things now. The perception is you've got to be judged now. Now, the comparisons that he made, I think...
But he does.
Well, he doesn't.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
By who? You?
No.
Who?
But you
Who
are
then?
judged on a day-to-day basis. You are judged
But
in the
who-
here and now.
Whose judgment is relevant?
Next year, Ruben Amorim might get it right. Is that the way
But
you're
who-
looking
but
at
who's-
it?
but
Is
who-
that the way Sir
But
Jim's
whose
looking
judgment?
at it?
Whose judgment is relevant? Who makes us the arbiter of what is success and what's relevant? To
Listen, they won't listen to a word I say, and they're quite right not to.
But that's his
But
point.
surely, it's the here and now.
By whom's? By whose standards?
Well, what is the here and now? Was where they finished in the Premier League last season acceptable?
But this is Manchester United as a.
I'm asking you that question.
Well, depends by who.
Because you tell us all the time that Manchester United are the most iconic club in the
Sure.
world. Was that acceptable
I don't think
for
it
the
was.
most iconic club in the
But
world?
I don't think it was. But these are grown-up people, not media people. These people look at the.
What, are media people not grown up
You have
people?
no idea what it takes to run a business.
No, I'm not saying I could run Manchester United.
So when we're
but
judging,
surely the point here is
by your
he
standards,
deserving of it?
by,
Has Amorim shown
Well, they-
enough signs thus far
Well, they-
to be
but-
deserving of another 2 years?
according to the owner, yes.
Yeah.
and that's
Oh,
it.
I know. I heard the interview like you did.
But that's the end of the conversation, isn't it?
Not really, no.
Why isn't it?
Because it's up to us to react to it. Because every United fan out there will have an opinion of what Sir Jim is saying.
Yes, but the key component part of this conversation is whose opinion is the most prevalent. The owner's opinion and the person that's actually informed.
Yeah, that's why
And
we're reacting to
And
it.
so the reaction I'm giving to it is that if he feels it's strong enough, if he feels the reasons are good enough for him to give the manager a certain amount of time, then the discussion that we're having is almost moot, because we're looking at an orthodoxy. I don't agree. I don't agree with the premise of the way you approach the subject matter. I don't agree that you judge people in small batches of time. I don't agree with the sensationalisation of everything. I don't
been a
agree with
year.
it. I don't think it's great, but
He's been in charge for a year.
yeah. But again, I'm in the camp of saying that the people that know are the ones that should make the right decisions.
I agree. They're closest to it.
And so I'm looking at it going, do I think that Ruben Amorim has given me personally any confidence that he's going to fix the problems that seem to, Man United seem to be beset by? But the owners of the football club seem to be quite relaxed about it. So as disappointing as that might be, given the orthodoxy of how football is run is now. I have to have it now.
Yeah.
Or if you don't get it now, you're going to be judged now. And there's a part of that which is reality, and I accept that. And I'm in that camp to say you have to be given some indications that things are going to get better. And there's nothing that I've seen from Ruben Amorim, from the way that he conducts himself in the media to the way that his team sets up, makes me feel from the outside looking in that he's going to get it right.
And that's exactly the point I'm putting to you.
But Jim Ratcliffe does. And so he must be seeing something, or he's completely clueless himself. And there is an element of what Jim says, like the example that he just gave. Arteta had a difficult time. Arteta won the FA Cup 6 months into his management of Crystal Palace, of Arsenal.
So Arteta's not a fair comparison to draw upon, is
Well,
he?
of course it's not. It's a poor comparison.
Right.
And Alex Ferguson, being the manager of Manchester United in 1986 until 1990 and be given dispensation, is a whole different landscape of football. Not just because football didn't just start in 1992.
Yeah.
But Manchester United have been asleep in 1986 for 20 years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't surprising that Alex Ferguson got given a bit more latitude.
Yeah.
If you look at his predecessors, whether it was Ron Atkinson, whether it was Dave Sexton, whether it was Tommy Dock, they were FA Cup winning teams at their very, very best, right? So it's not a fair comparison. So when I listen to Jim Ratcliffe, who you cannot not have immense respect for, and I make him right for the things that he says, I like to hear him say about this enormous media furore about the idea that he took away people's free lunches. And he turns around and says, well, nobody gave me a free lunch. So why is it expected that people that work within the confines of a football club should be given something for free? Oh, what, because I'm a billionaire and I shouldn't be doing these sort of things?
I reckon Sir Jim said the odd free lunch, but that's just in the passing.
Well-
I could understand it if we're saying in the here and now. If Amorim had just taken over in August, the here and now is a year on. That's the here and now. And that's why Manchester United fans will, I think, to a large number, to a large extent, will be surprised by what Sir Jim is saying.
But they're not, are they? Because we are surprised.
We'll put it out there.
We're surprised in this studio that Ruben Amorim seems to be being applauded from the stands for the stance that he's taken. So we've sat in this studio amongst ourselves and other people and saying, can't quite work that out because we are steeped in the orthodoxy of what we think is the right way to run a football club, which is instantaneous reactions.
You made a fairly quick judgment on Solskjaer in this very studio.
I did.
And you stuck to it.
I did, and I was right in the end.
And you stuck to it.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
because I think first impression.
So you can make a quick judgment in football.
So first impression, and you can
because it is the here and now.
you also change your mind as well.
Yeah.
You've got new information. I got no new information to make me change my mind with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah.
So my first decision about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was it was an unavoidable mistake because the people that were making the decision, in my view, were flawed. Now, Jim Ratcliffe may well be flawed too, but what he's not going to do is he's not going to be knee-jerk about it. Now, the question is, do you believe what he said? Do you believe that if Ruben Amorim continues to stink the place out, that he's going to hold fast?
Is that what he's been doing?
Well, you can't not suggest that it's been good, can you?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, you said it yourself. 17th in the league is poor. The Europa League was appalling final in terms of quality, so there was no get out of the card there for that.
No, you went stronger, stink the place out.
Yeah, so I think it was. I think they are.
Yeah.
So on that basis, can he continue to tolerate that for 3 years? If I would argue, if in a year's time Manchester United are sitting 17th in the league, which they won't be, and haven't won anything or even got close to winning anything, there might be a sea change. And what Jim Ratcliffe will say is, I have new information. The information that I had at the time
I've changed my mind.
I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
And that's the gift that you have. But I think what he's basically saying is we are Man United. We're in this. It's interesting what he talks about is I hope that we're going to be a good football team. I hope that we're going to be successful. If you don't get this bloody club successful, the value of this football club will eventually drop, irrespective of how big you think that football club is, because its core product has to be winning on the football pitch.
Yeah.
They're lucky because they're so good.
Yeah.
They're lucky because they're so commercially adept, and they're lucky because they're so valuable in people's eyes. But it will be eroded over a period of time if you continue to keep failing.
But he's this brilliant businessman, so he'll know that anyway.
You would think so.
Yeah. We go back to one of the top businessmen in the world, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Hugely successful. Now, of course, very much involved at Manchester United. And, of course, off the back of giving this interview to Dominic O'Connell on the Times and Sunday Times new podcast, in which he said, amongst other things, I would say Ruben Amorim needs to go and demonstrate that he's a great coach over the next 3 years. So Jim also spoke about what's going on of late within the football club and on all the talk, really, of profitability and business decision-making.
The costs were too high, and it's a combination of the costs and the management structure and the quality of the management and the people within it and all that. There are some fantastic people at Manchester United, but there was a level of mediocrity as well in there, which had crept in over the years, and it'd become bloated. The biggest correlation, whether we like it or not, but it's a fact, of results in football with an external factor is profitability. The more cash you've got, the better squad you can build. And at the end of the day, you know, it's like the better your Formula One car, the quicker you go, the better your squad, the better your football should be. So we have made some difficult calls, I think, in order to put the football club back on a good footing. And it isn't. Manchester United will become the most profitable football club in the world, in my view. And from that will stem, I hope, a long-term, sustainable, high level of football.
What do you make to what he's saying there, Simon? Manchester United will become the most profitable football club in the world, in my view. And from that will stem, I hope, a long-term, sustainable, high level of football. I noticed you really tuned into that.
Well, he is right, given the new framework of football governance, that profitability and the ability to compete within the confines of PSR drives the opportunity. But that's not how Manchester City built themselves into a football club that dominated English football, and that's not how Chelsea did. It's how they've been able to now, because they've been able to invest heavily to be able to create the outcomes. So I do like the language as a businessman, as a football person as well. You look at it and say, well, you've heard this before, Manchester United fans. You know that your football club is a profitable engine, because that's why the Glazers latched upon it. That's why Ed Woodward was very effective in his commercial operation. The language is very, very significant and very definite. It's going to become the most profitable football club in the world. It's less certain about how good it's going to be as a football team. From that, I hope, a long-term, sustainable, high level of football. Now, a high level of football and a winning, dominating football team are two different things. And so what does a high level of football mean to Jim Ratcliffe? That's the next part of the question, obviously, to answer. Is it re-establishing Man United at the top of the tree and winning things left, right and centre and dominating English football as you once did? Or is it a high level of football by competing and participating in European competitions and making sure that the engine still... Because the one thing I disagree with Jim on, and I feel almost reluctant to do so because of the comparative levels of successes in our lives, but it doesn't make him bulletproof, because I do think that some of the things he said, I think the statement that he made last November was utter drivel, utter balderdash.
We were running out of money.
Utter nonsense.
Were they ever running out of money?
And I was amazed, given the fact that perhaps he wasn't a director of the football club. This is the reasons why he wasn't held accountable for it. That the Man United weren't pulled up by the New York Stock Exchange, because it's clear that they did have money, and it's clear that that's a misrepresentation. And to say things about a listed security that aren't true is not right, and ultimately brings people into some sort of degree of consequence, because you're affecting the value of a stock.
But if he is a man that you say he is, why would he say that?
Precisely. That's my point. So I'm in this situation where I admire him tremendously for his acumen, but I don't agree with the manner in which he presents himself in certain terms in the football world. I also think he's become a useful idiot for the Glazers at times, by the very nature of the fact that he seems to be taking all the flack for the decisions that ultimately are still being made in conjunction with him. But who are the majority shareholders? The Glazers. So they're still the biggest beneficiaries of Jim Ratcliffe and any decisions that Jim Ratcliffe makes for the football team. Now, going to the heart of the matter, Manchester United will not be the most profitable football club in the world if they do not fix the issue around the team winning on the field, because it won't go on forever. As much as I've talked about Red Bull and Ferrari and used the analogy that Manchester United are Ferrari and Manchester City are Red Bull, the next generation of football fans around the world, not the 73,000 that go into Old Trafford, but the global audience, will have this view of Manchester United, but they'll have this view of the winning teams of the era, which will be the Manchester City. There's a reason why Liverpool were the dominant force in the 70s, but economically fell off a cliff in comparison to Man United for 25 years.
Yeah.
It's because they were no longer winning the way that they once did.
But Sir Jim seems to be saying in that audio we heard there, it's profitability first, then a winning team in the pitch.
Well, what he's saying is you can't have one without the other. He's saying in order to have the...
But which one comes first?
Well, they kind of run hand in hand these days, because Man United are in a position that, say, for example, Newcastle can't get to. Man United have got to £500 or £600 million turnover, £700 million turnover, I think, from the last set of records that I saw. Right, so the commercial engines are still turning over, because the legacy of Man United's imagery in people's minds is still clear and present. Go forward another 10 years. Right, if United continue as they are now, which is a side that's in managed decline. Right, still has the spectre, still has the image, still has the iconography of this wonderful, glossy, fantastic football club, but isn't winning anything. See what happens in 10 years' time. Now, of course, Jim is not planning for that to be the case, but he's planning for it to be successful. But he's talking about the profitability of Man United as if it's a given. And a given to me is not the case anymore, because unless you're winning now, the next generation of football fans will not buy into the luster of Man United the way they once did. So the brand will become tarnished. Yeah. And other brands like Manchester City and the City Group and other football clubs that are shiny and new and winning and dominating football, and Man United are not, will take the position. So he has to get a winning football team. So when he talks about the profitability of the football club, he accepts to some extent that he knows he has to have a good product on the field. But this is not the language of definite winning, because the language of Man United is we're the biggest football club in the world and we win.
Yeah.
What this language is we're the biggest football club in the world, we make money, which is the language of the Glazers. And ultimately, we want a sustainable football team that competes at high levels. No, you want a football team that dominates football. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't include the fact that the opposition is strong. And the one thing that Jim Ratcliffe needs to realise is no one's standing still waiting for Man United to get better.
No.
All the other football clubs are going to get better. All the other football clubs have got well-heeled owners.
Yeah.
All the other football clubs are going to push the envelope. So Man United, no one's sitting there going, well, let's wait for Man United to catch up, get their act together. They're going to keep on evolving as well. So if Man United get to another standard, there's no reason to believe that Arsenal won't go to there and City won't go to there.
Two very quick points from me. If as you hope, PSR is scrapped,
as I think it should be,
sustainability
for the Premier League, certainly.
Sustainability doesn't really matter then.
Well, yes, but Man United have never been a football club that, in the same way that Arsenal weren't, that actually was a club that was being funded by benefactors. They were a football club that had the organic ability to be able to create wealth or income or revenue through its own deeds. Arsenal, once upon a time, were a football club that made money year on year. And it was an interesting thing about 5 years ago that in order to get some profitability in the football club, they had to sell players. That wasn't how Arsenal used to be run, and certainly wasn't how David Dein ran it. And now you look at Man United, they've never really been a situation where they haven't been a profitable football club or a significant revenue generator. And in recent years, that's changed. Whereas Manchester City, and again, Chelsea, I make the point, and they don't like him, I don't care. The reasons why they were able to get to these turnovers that now they've cemented is because there was huge money thrown at them that wasn't generated by the football club, was generated by the individual that came in that decided to change the direction of the football club.
Right. You say he's become a bit of a useful idiot for the Glazers. He's had a swipe at the Glazers. There was a level of mediocrity and it become bloated.
But we all say that. It's like a manager coming in
That's
saying...
their regime, son.
Yeah, correct. But we all go into football clubs and we all say that there's something there that we didn't like. Every manager comes in and says the players weren't fit enough. And he was right, because the day-to-day running of the football club, we all knew that the Glazers were sat back. This wasn't hurting the Glazers. The big issue for the football fans is the effect of what's happening to the football team is not happening. A, you didn't pay anything for it.
Yeah.
B, everything you did pay for it, you're getting serviced by somewhere else, i.e. our cash. C, you're taking big dividends. So all of those things are not affecting you. So the mediocrity set in because the Glazers weren't running the football club in a certain way. Now, he's gone in there and did to a lesser level. When I walked into Palace, it was, even after being in administration for 18 months, there were bad disciplines, bad attitudes, people that didn't work at a high level, and it was bloated into people's mentality. And when Ratcliffe went in there was an outrage from people about what he did. He cut off the £2 million a year ambassadors package for Alex Ferguson, which Alex Ferguson doesn't need. He cut off certain things inside the football club. He started to get rid of jobs because he looked around and went, the hell is this? This is not good enough. And I make him right.
Yeah. But
he's got to fix, that's rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, right? He's got to fix the bloody football team.
So Jim Ratcliffe has been speaking to Dominic O'Connell on the Times and Sunday Times new podcast, The Business. And amongst other things, he's been saying Amorim needs 3 years to do what he's going to try to achieve at the football club. 3 years of Ruben Amorim. Are United fans buying into that this morning? Is Sir Jim right? 03717 223344. Dave is first up, big United fan. Dave, what do you think of Sir Jim's comments? Good morning.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning.
Right, straight away, I just want to get into let's just get it straight. I think we've certainly had a terrible 18 months with Amorim. There's no questions about that. But I genuinely believe that you can see. I know the results have been a bit all over the show again this season, but I genuinely believe, watching every match of United have played so far this season, that you can see some improvements, as is suggested by having more shots on target than any other team so far this season. I mean, they were miles off last season, as was proven with how few goals they scored. I genuinely believe he's going to need at least 3 or 4 years to get this job right. I mean, he's slowly but surely weeding out all the bad eggs, whether that be on loan or whether that be a sale. He is slowly weeding out all the bad eggs, I think, and as I say, you can see some improvements this season, especially over last. I think the system that he plays is always going to be flawed until he gets a couple of midfielders with some real energy and legs, like, you know, a Kante style, Baleba, Wharton, those kind of players. I mean,
yeah.
The central midfield having no legs at all is a real problem in that style of play, because to have two midfielders up against 3 or 4, you need to have extreme mobility, and we just don't have that with Casemiro.
So Dave, it sounds to me like you're begrudgingly going with what Sir Jim is saying.
Yeah, I mean, I've supported United for 30 plus years now, and I've lived through the good times. I've lived through the past 10 years of things going downhill, and I'm a firm believer that keep sacking managers just solves nothing, because all managers have a different style of play. So you get a team together that suits Amorim's style of play. They sack him, they get somebody else in who then plays 4 at the back. You need a half a new team again, don't you?
So if the 15th again this season, what you're saying, Dave, is, well, so be it. He's got another season after that.
It'd be hard to accept. I genuinely don't think that. I can see us finishing around mid-table, around about where we are now, around 10th. And I think if we can get 10th, and maybe just nip into the top half, I think, and possibly an FA Cup or something like that, I think that's got to be viewed as progression, because it was never going to turn itself around in two or three transfer windows.
Okay, Dave, listen, thank you for the call. So you heard it from Dave there. 10th would be acceptable. Aaron, big United fan. What's your take on what Sir Jim is saying about Amorim in 3 years?
Well, I don't really quite believe Ratcliffe. on what he says for getting behind Amorim, because he's obviously shown before that he's quite ruthless by giving Ten Hag a new contract and then a few months later pays him off to get him out the door. He's obviously shown his ruthlessness with the staff cutting, so if things don't improve, you give it a few more months and if it's as bad as what it's been, he'll get rid of Amorim as well.
Right, you think, right, Aaron, you think even if it continues to go not in the direction United fans hope it will, then there might be a change of course. There might be a change of mind by Sir Jim.
The bigger question for me is when you've got Man United fans coming on, or when Jim Ratcliffe is being interviewed, is what is it that he sees in Amorim that gives him the confidence to make the observation that in 3 years he believes that the manager will be successful? Because you can only base it upon what you see.
Well, he says he's a good guy.
Well, that's fantastic. The world's full of good guys. What you need is winners, yeah? And so the big question for me is to Man United fans, when they come on and say, yeah, we're prepared to do that, what is it about what you're seeing from Jim Ratcliffe and also from Ruben Amorim that gives you the belief that actually they're going to get it right? Because Jim, by his own admission, has made mistakes, and we all do. I've seen the interviews, and as much as I'm impressed by him as a commercial man, I'm not impressed with him in terms of the way he speaks about football. And I'm also, in no way am I impressed with Amorim. So I'd like to know why Man United fans are saying, yes, in him we trust. In him we trust.
So, David, we're about to hit the half-10 bulletin, but I'll squeeze you in. Do you trust in Amorim?
Hi there, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. What's your take on it? 3 years?
Yes. So basically, I do agree with a lot of what Simon said and a couple of the previous callers. I'm going to make a quick analogy, which is what I tried to do yesterday on the Hugh Woolsencroft show last night on their show.
All right.
So basically, this is my theory. What Amorim and Jim Ratcliffe are doing at the moment, and more so Amorim and his idea. So imagine having a house that's really run down, with rotten foundations. You then decide to just give the whole house a lick of paint and plaster the whole wall, all of the walls, and then to the eye, that house looks very, very appealing on the outside. You then go and move into that house after you've bought it and realise a couple of years in that the foundations are rotten and the whole house starts falling apart. So then what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to knock all of the house back down, which means you're going to have to delete all of the work you previously did, go backwards, build the foundations properly, and then build the house back up again.
Right.
That is going to cost. That's going to be painful.
It'll
it's going to
take
take
time. Yeah.
And it's going to cost.
Right.
This is what Amorim, I believe, is doing. He did it at Sporting in a couple of years, and he's trying to do and implement that over here. Now, we've had a rotten culture at this club for a long time. Now, a lot of these players have shown their faces time and time again with different types of managers, elite managers, not so elite managers. And the fact that Jim Ratcliffe came out yesterday and backed Amorim publicly and said he's going to be there for 3 years, well, he said so. Whether he will be or not is a different story. But I really like that. It sends a clear message to the players, to the staff, to everybody at the club.
Right.
We're behind this man. We're changing direction. We're rebuilding properly. And
the pain will be worth the gain. Okay, David, thanks for that. The news this morning coming out of Tottenham. Simon alongside me. We're joined at this stage, the back of half-10, by talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Alex, Tottenham, what do you know?
Good morning. Yeah, interesting news coming out of Spurs this morning. We've had a statement in the last half an hour or so from ENIC, Tottenham's owners, saying they've injected £100 million of new capital into the club. It's in the form of equity, and ENIC tell us it will further strengthen the club's financial position and equip their leadership team with additional resources to continue to focus on driving long-term sporting success. So I guess the big question is how much of this £100 million equity Thomas Frank will be given to spend in the upcoming transfer windows. We've spoken to sources close to the Lewis family who own Tottenham, and they say that this is initial additional funding as the club's management decides what's needed to deliver success. More money will be available, and they tell us the Lewis family is committed to backing the club to be successful. Of course, this follows the removal of Daniel Levy as chairman. They were telling us then that was because they wanted more sporting success, and it follows several potential takeover offers that have been rejected by the Lewis family. So I'm keen to get Simon's take on what exactly this means for Spurs moving forward.
100 million, Simon. Where's that going to take them?
I don't know why they've done it. I mean, one of the things that'd be interesting to see is whether Daniel Levy's been asked to put some money in as well, because he's a 30% shareholder. So, whether his equity is being diluted as a result of this will be an interesting byproduct of this circumstance, albeit 100 million is neither here nor there in a club that's valued 3.5 billion. It may well be because the banks have asked them to put a bit more money in because of the working capital balance between what they've got and what they're currently borrowing. And it will find its way into the team somewhere along the line. I mean, £100 million, with due respect, in the Premier League isn't a huge amount of money. Clubs that get promoted from the Championship are now spending £100 million. So it's a nice little announcement. It's positive. It reinforces the idea they're not for sale. Everything is for sale. If someone comes knocking on Spurs' front door and wants to pay £4.5 billion, then Joe Lewis will sell it. I'm sorry, I don't care about the protestations, but notwithstanding that, it's good noise, it's good news. Tottenham fans will think, oh, yes, it's another example of, now that they've got Daniel Levy out of the way. Well, Daniel Levy worked with them. Daniel Levy worked in conjunction with them. They were the majority shareholders. So to suggest that Daniel was stopping them from doing something is rather ridiculous.
But would they be doing this if Daniel was still there?
Well, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe ultimately, what would have stopped them from doing it previously? Because Daniel didn't control the football club. He controlled it in conjunction with them. Clearly, he didn't control it because they removed him. Right? Yeah. So, with due respect to the process, if they wanted to have done this before, now it might be that some of the things that might have gone on is that Daniel's fierce opposition to PSR, or the fierce support of it, shall I say, maybe the sea change in the room believes that PSR, like I do, needs to be removed, and maybe the Lewises believe that ultimately more sporting success means more inherent value to the football club, which I think is true. And ultimately, the change of modus operandi is because they want to see more sporting success so that they can get more value for their football club, because they recognise that silverware brings value. Once upon a time, it built pride. It cost a lot of money to get. But now what it's doing is building inherent value in football clubs. When we see all this money being thrown at Manchester City, they've got trophies. Has their value increased in conjunction with their investment? Yeah, it has. So winning is proving to be a significant aphrodisiac to valuations. So the Lewises and their group, and whoever's running it, whether it's the non-exec chairman that's in it at this moment in time, or the chief executive that Daniel bought across from Arsenal, whoever they are,
right,
are being given a different brief than the one that Daniel was probably doing, and a whole different set of opportunities may manifest themselves. I suspect we will still see some of the same challenges that Tottenham have had previously manifest themselves.
Okay. Alex, what we know is right here in London right now, Steven Gerrard in talks with Rangers. What more do we know?
Yeah, well, this is a story that really has been developing at pace since Russell Martin's departure from Rangers on Sunday night. We reported on talkSPORT then that the Rangers hierarchy would be very keen on the idea of bringing Steven Gerrard back to the football club. What we didn't know at that time is how keen Gerrard himself would be on returning to Ibrox, because it's my understanding that he was the front runner in the summer when they appointed Russell Martin. He didn't want to go back then. That stance seems to have softened. I think it's going to have to be absolutely right for Steven Gerrard in terms of having the overall say on transfers, obviously working alongside the sporting director, Kevin Felwell, who's had a lot of stick from Rangers fans in the last few days and weeks. He's going to want to bring in his own coaching team. That won't be very difficult because most of Russell Martin's guys went with him. And I think he wants assurances there's going to be money to spend to improve a squad that obviously has badly underperformed in the Scottish Premiership so far this season and in Europe as well. I think what's really interesting here is that the Rangers hierarchy, the very top brass, the owners themselves are conducting these talks. So clearly they're serious about getting Steven Gerrard back to the club. They are, we're told, sounding out other candidates as well. But my impression is if Steven Gerrard wants this job, and the initial indications are that he does, then he is more likely than not to be the new Rangers manager second time around.
Alex, thanks very much indeed. So the understanding is, Simon, that it's Parag Marath and Andrew Kavanagh themselves who are conducting the talks with Gerrard, who seems to have manoeuvred himself now into favourite position.
Well, you can look at it as the fact that they are serious about convincing Steven Gerrard, or you can look at it as they don't like the decisions that were made by the people that he delegated them to previously, and actually getting their hands dirty and getting involved.
Yeah, maybe a bit both.
I'd be more inclined to look at the latter rather than the former, because they've made a decision, they've allowed their chief executive and their sporting director to bring somebody in. It hasn't worked, so they're now getting themselves at the coalface to make a decision that they will have direct control over rather than delegated control.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? First, Brendan Rodgers at Celtic. I mean, it is quite a dynamic, is it not, to see both the Old Firm clubs crawl back to managers who walked out in them first time around?
Well, it's an interesting way of putting it. And, you know, in terms of both of these managers left at a certain time because they felt pastures were better for them. The backstory is always, when you've got a manager that's got a profile like Gerrard, you get a backstory that comes out. He didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because he wasn't given what he was entitled to. And it's not true. He left Rangers because he wanted to go to Aston Villa because he felt it was a bigger job. That's why he left, and the rest of it is just people padding the nest of someone that didn't want to stay at Rangers any longer.
Would you reappoint someone who walked out on you in the past?
Well, you asked Darren McAntony. He sacks his manager, brings him back every 5 minutes, and the manager comes back. Look, they want to fix something, and they didn't. They weren't the owners of the football club when he left. So he hasn't betrayed their confidences. He hasn't betrayed their trust. This is a whole new set of relationships.
Yeah.
The Celtic thing, slightly different, because Brendan walked out mid-season. And Brendan's up to his old tricks again now, which is when he doesn't get what he wants and his team isn't performing at the level, it's everybody else's fault but his. And then he starts to talk in different languages and starts to distance himself from certain people. Can't have a relationship with his chief executive. Whatever he can't do, Brendan, will find a reason why it's not his fault. So I'm less tolerant of Brendan than I might be of Steven Gerrard. But I think Steven Gerrard is very lucky, because over the last 2 years, and very rarely in life, do you get to be pretty poor in a series of jobs and then get a wonderful job come knocking on your door, irrespective of the condition of Rangers at this moment in time. If you are good at your job, then Rangers is a dream of a football club to be in, because look at the energy, look at the enthusiasm, and if you've got a new set of owners that really want to be successful, you can drag them along by the nose as well.
I mean, the one big thing he did, obviously, was to win the title. Yeah. And Kavanagh and Maratha, no fools, obviously, doing what they do. So mindful of that, Stephen, what chance you can come in again and do exactly that again?
Well, yeah, I mean, and the stars are aligning, because Celtic are not the force at this moment in time that they were previously. When Gerrard won the league, Celtic were most certainly not the force that they became post Gerrard's departure. And when Brendan came back and started to reignite them and get them back into a focus again, post Ange Postecoglou. So timing is everything.
Yeah,
timing is everything. But Gerrard, again, I make the point, and I don't care whether it's a popular point or not. I think he's lucky to be in that situation, and I think it's primarily because Rangers are devoid of ideas and perhaps devoid of a little bit of ambition.
England, the plucky underdogs. Is that the tag that you lot are really going to have, Simon, as you head, as you will do, to the World Cup finals next summer? Has Thomas Tuchel just handed out the biggest dose of reality that this country needed on the football front? Now, we're going to talk more about specific players with Tuchel shortly, but Tuchel's been speaking about this, and is it essentially time for you lot to dial down the sense of entitlement? It's coming home, it's coming home. You know where I'm going with that. Thomas Tuchel. We will arrive as underdogs in the World Cup because we haven't won it for decades. And we will play against teams who have repeatedly won it during that time. So we need to arrive as a team, otherwise we have no chance. If you've never won Wimbledon, you may be one of the favourites, but you are not the favourite. You can go, and if you come close, okay, you are within the pool. But you're not the favourite. It's just how it is. So in other words, he's saying, we do not count ourselves as any favourite amongst the favourites to do anything over there. The favourites would be Brazil. He says there's Argentina, Spain, France, because they did it recently. It doesn't mean we have no chance, and we know very well. But first we will qualify, and then we will know exactly where we go from there. He's right, isn't he?
He is right, but it flies in the face into the reason why he was brought in. Right? He wasn't brought in to maintain the status quo. He wasn't brought in to make us plucky competitors, or to be grateful for being in finals repeatedly over the last 2 sets of tournaments or 3 sets of tournaments and not winning.
Yeah.
There's a natural progression which is assumed, is that when the French team started their engines up before 98 and they started to win youth tournaments and they started to be very competitive again on the international level, that they were going to win a tournament. And so they duly did. And our next step is, our first step was to get ourselves together after 2016, to get ourselves together after years being very poor at certain times. The 70s, a complete and utter write-off. We got ourselves together slightly in the 80s. We had a chance in parts of the 90s. Then we went to sleep again in the 90s. And then we got ourselves together again, a little bit under Sven-Goran Eriksson. And then we really started with Gareth getting opportunities to get into tournament finals, because I think the opposition in international football was decreased. We've got better players now because we've got more foreign players playing in our leagues, which is raising the standards of both our coaching and our players. So all those things aligned with an opportunity. So now what we've done is we've gone to Thomas Tuchel. We've revisited a formula that was held before, which is we can't find a coach in England that we think is good enough to be able to take our international side. We've tried previously to go with Sven-Goran Eriksson. It got us somewhere near close to being successful. We tried with Fabio Capello, which was a failed experiment, full stop, because culturally it didn't work. Thomas Tuchel works because Thomas Tuchel has worked in English football, been proven to be successful in English football, and looks like the real deal because he's managed all these big clubs. So we brought him in to win. That's what he's there for.
Thomas Tuchel works.
Well, Thomas Tuchel, on lots of levels, works because he's been successful. If I were his club owner, he would drive me insane. But as an international manager, it's a different framework. He's not with you on a day-to-day basis. He can't bitch and whine about transfer funds and what he does and doesn't get. So you're not going to have those sort of problems. The only thing you might have is if how he behaves himself outside of the football pitch.
But he's won nothing at international level.
Because he's not managed internationally.
Right.
But you're taking a successful
Thomas
manager.
Tuchel works.
But Gareth Southgate has won nothing full stop. And was put into a situation where he almost got success. And the question would be, if you had a manager that was capable of making key decisions at key times, that little X factor that the elite managers have, that make a decision, that turn around and say, Italy are coming at us now, we've got a 1-0 lead, we need to change the direction of travel and not wait for it to happen. Hang on a second, we've got France and where we want to get them, so we need to overload them now, do something different. These decisions are made by a manager that's got a different way of looking at the game, that separates themselves from the also-rans. Tuchel is one of those,
right? And
that's why he's there.
So are you happy to go with Thomas, that you go to the USA next summer, not as one of the favourites, but as one of the underdogs?
No, we are one of the favourites. We're not the favourites. That's what he's saying. Of course we're one of the favourites. You can't be at England in a tournament, having gone in the last 2 or 3 tournaments the way we've gone, and not be priced into the thinking of either bookies or football fans that we're going to be one of the favourites.
He's not saying that.
He's saying
we'll arrive as underdogs.
Well, he's using 2 different kinds of language. Where he's using the initial part as we'll arrive as underdogs, and then he turns around and says that we're favourites.
But how could you be? Because you haven't won it for decades.
Well, that's his point.
And Thomas is right.
But the natural progression for an international football team, which is the one that I laid out, which is the French team, which is when they started to get going at youth level and started to be very competitive at international full level, the next thing they did was take successful tournaments and turn them into winning tournaments. We ain't done that. And the question is, why haven't we done that? Why didn't we take the World Cup in 2018 and turn it into a winning situation in 2021 in the Euros? And why didn't we turn the 21 Euros into a winning situation in Qatar? And why didn't we turn the winning situation opportunities in Qatar into an outcome in our second final against the Spanish? The answer is 2 things. A, the teams we came up against were better than us, and we never beat anybody that we shouldn't beat, quite frankly. And B, when we do get a whiff of an opportunity, we needed a manager that was going to be able to do something different, with all due respect to the successes that Gareth had.
See, this is new to you. This is new to you. Tuchel's laid out a whole new landscape to you. Because every time you go into a major tournament finals, you're like, this is it. This is it. Cue the music. No, it's coming home.
That's not true.
It is true.
Well, that's not true.
It is true.
It's not
You
true.
expect to win it.
Expectations have ebbed and flowed, but they couldn't have flowed lower than when we went into the 2018 Russian World Cup, because we came off the back of the 2016 situation. Everybody thought English football was deader than the dead thing from Deadland. And we now had a situation where expectations in the media were aligned with the fact that England are a write-off. And it gave a different dynamic. There is a section still of the British press that will constantly suggest that England should win things, irrespective of the opposition. But it's not the same way it was. Now, the expectations are higher, and rightly so, because England have gone deep in every single tournament they've been in. And people will suggest, like me, if there was a little bit more guile about our thinking at certain times in a game, aka the manager's contribution, we might have a European Championship in our cupboard now. And that's what Tuchel's there for.
See, now it's all changed, though. Tuchel's saying, don't think like that. He's not saying Don't think you're one of... We will arrive as underdogs because we haven't won it for decades. And we will play against teams who have repeatedly won it during that time. So we need to arrive as a team who really have no chance.
We need to arrive as a team. Yeah. Otherwise, we have no chance.
Right.
Not a group of individuals, not a set of expectations. As a unit, and I'm building a team. So packing the background noise about Jude Bellingham, packing the background noise about how I've played in recent games that haven't got us the results that we thought we should have got in the manner we should have got, Andorra and whatever else. Let me build a team. So when my team arrives in the World Cup, my chance of winning this World Cup is by having a coherent, well put together team. It's stating the bleeding obvious, but it's repackaging it in a way that he overcomes the obstacles of the interview he's doing at the time. He knows that his job, whoever gave him the job, and I don't have much value in the people that gave him the job, and I'm not highly impressed by Mark Bullingham, but they must have given him the job with the blueprint saying, we got close, now go win it. Or otherwise, what is the purpose of a Thomas Tuchel?
Listen, you should be thanking Mark Bullingham this morning. You've just said that Tuchel's the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But but you can alight upon the real deal. But if you don't impart the message properly and program these people properly, you're not here for a dance. You're here to go to the World Cup, Thomas, and win. That's what we're here for, because we got close.
As underdogs.
We're the whiff of. Well, that's Thomas's language right now. Because if he's managing the question in the interview, which is, do you think that you're the favourite for this tournament? No one in their right mind would say yes. Because why would they say yes? Because you're a hostage to fortune. That line will be whipped out and smashed in your face every single time you don't beat a team 5-0 that you should beat. So he's just managing the situation.
Did you go to Germany last year to the Euros thinking we're going to win this?
No. No, hang on.
Simon.
No, hang on. You can play. I have
with you.
I have repeatedly said forever and a day, and I've been criticised for it, I doubt we'll win anything with Gareth Southgate. I sat in studios with Keown and Stuart Pearce having rows and arguments about their endless allegiance to Gareth Southgate, and I said that the reasons why we won't win these tournaments is because Gareth doesn't have that X factor.
Do you think you should have won it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, no, could have won it. And should have won it are two different things. We had an opportunity. You shouldn't do anything unless you're the best, and we ain't the best. But we had an opportunity. And the Euros, not so much. But in the against the French in the World Cup, I think we could have beaten them. I should have beaten them in the game in and of itself, because we had them. We had them by the balls, and we didn't take advantage of it. And that's the thing that Tuchel will bring. That's the opportunity that he'll have to bring to the England team. And the language that he's using right now is media management.
He was asked a whole bunch of things before England going against the Welsh. He was asked about this collection of most talented players that England appear to have, and whether or not they will or not feature in his squads. This was Tuchel.
You need to accept your role. You need to support. You need to support your teammate, and you need to understand what it means to be yourself the best teammate possible. In the end, we want to first of all qualify, which is not done yet. When we arrive in the US, we want to stay all the way. We can only stay all the way. We can only make we can only make it happen if we arrive with a strong team. I just watched a documentary of the New England Patriots and saw a quote there: we don't collect the most talented players, we build a team. I cannot agree more. So that's what we're trying to do.
So maybe the likes of Bellingham, Foden and Grealish aren't shoo-ins, as many of us thought they might be.
Well, if they form part of a team. We saw a couple of years ago, or maybe a little bit less than that, when I think Real Madrid played against Man City, and Vinicius Jr. was doing a job for the team that no one expected him to do, which was working back, playing in the formation.
Yeah.
That's what he means.
Yeah.
That's what he means.
Yeah.
You are a team is a sum of all its parts.